Hello everyone, welcome to my AEM interview preparation video series. If you are watching this video for first time, then let me tell you, this video may not be suitable for you if you want to learn the concepts. This video series is about what is the expected answers for the particular questions in the AEM interview. So without wasting time, let's get started. So the question can be like explain AEM's servlets, explain various registration types of servlets, or various annotations used in AEM servlets. So the ideal answer will be look like this. So in AEM, the servlet is a Java class that used to extend the capabilities of servers that host applications accessed by means of request response programming model. Servlets can respond to any request, commonly used to extend the application hosted by web servers. The servlet interface, which specifies lifecycle methods, must be implemented by all the servlets. And Sling Servlet. Sling Servlet in AEM, servlets are registered as OSGi services. OSGi is built on top of Sling and JCR. Sling is the REST-based protocol to access the JCR over the web. A Sling Servlet is servlet-side component that handles HTTP requests and responses. And Sling Servlet process request to specific paths, select resource types, generate dynamic responses such as HTML, JSON, and other formats. For a servlet registration, an OSGi services to be used by a Sling Servlet resolver. There are some restrictions that applies to a Sling Servlets. Either the Sling Servlet path or Sling Servlet resource type service reference property must be set. If neither is set, the servlet service is ignored. If both are set, then servlet is registered using both ways. If the Sling Servlet path property is set, then all other Sling Servlet properties are ignored. Otherwise, a resource provider is registered for the servlet for each permutation resource type, selector, extension, and method. And there are two types of servlets in Sling, which are nothing but the classes we need to extend while creating our servlet. The first one is Sling Sep method servlet, and another is Sling All method servlet. If we want to use only read-only methods, then we use Sling Sep method servlet. This base class is just better implementation of the Servlet API HTTP Servlet class, which accounts for extensibility. So extensions of this class have great control over what methods to override. It supports get, head, options, etc. methods. If you want to use methods that write as well, then we have to use Sling All method servlet. This class extends Sling Sep method servlet by supporting the post, put, and delete methods. So the overall architecture will be like this. The request will originate from a web server to get and send data from the server. The request will use HTTP or HTTPS protocol. The request from the web browser will first reach to dispatcher. Dispatcher will return cached data if found, otherwise it will reach out to AEM instance. AEM instance will reach out to specific servlet classes depending on servlet URL mapping, request type, get, post, delete, etc. content types. Web browsers can send or get data from servers in predefined formats such as JSON, XML, binary, etc. The servlet classes will collect data from a web browser. The servlet class will process the data collected from the browser. The servlet class will store same data in database as per design. The servlet class can also collect the data from database and send back to browser in some predefined format. So if you talk about some annotations, like @ component annotation is must to use a register a servlet, like @ component service equal to servlet.class. This annotation in OSGi, it is used to declare and configure OSGi service component. When creating a Sling Servlet AEM, this annotation helps define servlet as a service. Sling Servlet can be registered in two ways, using resource type and using path. Using resource type, we we have to use Sling resource type property of the node. For this, we need to hit the path in the browser for which the Sling resource type is the given one. The annotation will be like this: at the rate component service equal to servlet.class, and at the rate Sling Servlet resource type. Attributes will be resource type equal to resource type of component, selectors and extensions as per required. Then if for the path registration by path, using this way we can directly use the path specified to the request and our servlet will be executed. The annotation will be like this: at that component service equal to servlet.class, then at the rate Sling Servlet paths and property of the path, that can be bin slash create page or bin slash something. Let's discuss the properties used inside above annotations. Like Sling Servlet paths, which is used for providing the path to access the servlet. Sling Servlet resource type is used when the path of the resource type that is used to access the servlet. Sling Servlet methods can be get, post, delete, etc. Sling Servlet selector can be a specific selector. Sling Servlet extension can be used for various extensions like txt, json, html, etc. If we have to compare between these two, resource type and path based servlet, then the resource type servlet handles permissions for you. So only user can access a particular resource, can invoke the servlet. This makes the resource type servlet more secure than path based servlet, which can't be access controlled using default JCR ACL. And resource type servlet also call the resource first, then the servlet, while path type servlet call the servlets directly. And the path bound servlet can only register to a path, not a resource type. And they don't support suffix handling. If a path bound servlet isn't active, a post might produce unexpected results. When defining a path, you must be specific about which paths are allowed to be used in servlet resource. OSGi services. If you define something randomly, your servlet might not work. We also need to specify the path to the servlet consumers, and change in the path can have a serious impact. We registering a servlet via path is relatively easier than registering via resource type, but it's still recommended to use resource type instead of path. So there can be some other questions related to servlet, like what happens if you want to register more than one servlet with the same path? If you register more than one servlet with the same path in AEM, the behavior is depend on how the servlet are registered and configured. So priority and registration order can change accordingly. Like if the multiple servlets are registered on the same path, the OSGi container determines which servlet to invoke based on the registration order. The last registered servlet usually takes precedence. Service ranking. If you can influence which servlet gets priority by using service.ranking property. A servlet with higher service ranking value will be chosen over with the lower ranking. Another question interviewer can ask you: what happens if we add more than one path or resource type in the Sling Servlet? When you add more than one path or resource type in the Sling Servlet, the servlet will handle a request for all specified paths or resource type. If you specify multiple paths in servlet configuration, the servlet will respond to requests directed at any of these paths. Similarly, you can configure a servlet to handle multiple resource types. This means the servlet will process requests for resources of any of the specified types. Another questions can be: what happens if we use the same resource type for multiple servlets? And its answer is: when you register multiple Sling servlets for same resource types in AEM, the behavior is governed by how the OSGi service container prioritizes the selectors, which servlet to use. Conflict resolution, like for example service ranking, the servlet with the higher service ranking will be chosen to handle the request. If the service ranking property is not specified, servlet registered last will take precedent. If the servlet are differentiated by selector, the selector specified in the request URL will determine which servlet handle the request. If the servlets are registered to handle different HTTP methods, the methods of incoming request will determine which servlet is invoked. So this was all about the servlet based interview questions answers. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please share, subscribe to the channel and to stay updated with the latest videos.